What is going on, Rotogrinders? Dean here. That's Dean 78904. That is daily fantasy handle around the daily fantasy industry. It is 5:10 on the East Coast, 2:10 West Coast, 4:10 Tennessee time. So, of course, it's time for the flagship show here at Rotogrinders. It is called Grinderslive. Joining me today, it's an intimate show, just the two of us. Myself, Grant Neefer, the third greatest sports bettor of all time, according to one contest. What's up, Grant? How are things in your world? How's your Monday? You got a case of them?
No, I feel great today. I feel fantastic. Already threw down like 100 bets. That's an exaggeration. How many bets did I throw down? I threw down. What's your guess?
How many individual wagers you have tonight?
Yes.
27.
31. You were close. Proud of you.
Did I win both showdowns?
No.
Oh.
If you would have said 30, I think you have to be within one.
Yeah, I mean within $500. That's a whole different game, I suppose. I didn't go over nothing else.
Most of the time that's roughly around 3%. That would be one in this scenario.
So sometimes what we do when you're on the show, Grant, let's say hello to the YouTube world. What up, YouTube? Hit that like button, do subscribe, turn on the notifications, all that good stuff. It keeps the proverbial lights on for the free show. Grant, you've been sprinkling in our Discord some of the picks that you've had when you've been on the show, because the people on YouTube are like, well, I want to talk to these guys. I want to see what they say about this person on this slate. And how do they go about doing that? They have to go to rotogrinders.com/Discord, go to the live stream chat channel, which is free, doesn't cost you anything. You do not have to be a premium member. There are premium channels that is not a premium channel, that's a free channel. And to entice the people, Grant, to join us, to come hang out with us, you've been sprinkling in some of your bets. So will you be doing that this evening?
I just threw 4 in, all on the same player. One plays plus 1,300. So go get in there. Go download it right now. If you are on Discord, sign up now. I mean, Dean will spend 20 minutes reading body parts. You can do it during that.
No, I'm not doing that. I'm not spending that amount of time. It's more convenient. It's much easier to list who is actually in. There's stuff we are monitoring. We know a lot of stuff already going in to the slate, but Lillard's a big one that's plays late. He's he's questionable as far as the slate. We know Tatum is out. That's a big one, obviously. Teammate Marcus Smart is questionable too. They could shake some things up. Pat Bev is an interesting one we're monitoring. He's currently questionable as well for Minnesota. And Trae Young may come back. Like, he may pass another test and he may come back. And I saw the NBA. I'm not sure if this affects Trae Young tonight. I don't know, but they just changed their quarantine rules from like 10 days to 6 days. I don't know how that's going to affect things, but I believe that is one of the first games on the slate. Yeah, it's the second game.
I don't think he ends up playing. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets held out because of conditioning, but you never know. Like, it's literally a crapshoot. I have a lot of bets contingent on the fact that he doesn't end up playing, or else Bogdanovich and Reddish.
Yeah, and that obviously is going to muck some stuff up. Currently, we're projecting him out, and probably, like you said, probably more likely out than in. But there is a chance he sneaks back in tonight, which of course would suppress guys like Mays and Bogdanovich and Reddish. Like, he's still only one person, but like usage stuff is going to go down. You know what's interesting about the slate tonight is it's a 7-gamer, Grant, right? And every single game starts at a different time, which I think I like that. But you got to stay on top of things, obviously. But yeah, like 7 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock, 8:30, every half hour, 9 o'clock, then 10, and then 10:30. Of course, one of the big ones is later on tonight with Portland. It's not an injury to Lillard. It's just a personal issue. No idea what it is. Hope everything's all right with him. But, they are super, super thin as is in Portland. And if Lillard doesn't go, you might have some of your spots already taken up. Of course, hopefully News sprinkles in and we get some, knowledge as far as if he's in, as far as if he's out, as far as an update. But yeah, your general overview as far as this slate tonight. Of course, one big spend that's staring right at our face is Harden. That's the hammer. Harden without Durant, without Kyrie, not there just yet, obviously, against the Clippers team that's, there without Paul George, potentially for the entire season. Yeah, I mean, there's some other big spends as well, but like, LaMelo versus the Rockets, that's an awesome game environment. We'll talk about that in a second. Brown without Tatum against Minnesota, and Minnesota completely ravaged as well. No Donovan Mitchell, no Murray for the Spurs. There's not a lot of studs. That's kind of what I'm getting at. You got some places to spend your money. Brown, I think we're looking at LaMelo, and of course Harden. Give me your general thoughts or your screenshot as far as this slate before we dig in and break it down game by game.
Well, It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
My player pool is like 20 guys.
Really? Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Why would I need more?
Well, I mean, it could change, obviously. I get it.
Yes, I obviously anything. This slate can go bananas, BANANAS, very quickly. But as of right now, I have 20 guys in my player pool.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, there's good plays and there's great plays. And I think also raw points matter too. Like, it's another one of those deals where if somebody is 3.3K and they give you 26 points, like in theory, that's fine, but I don't know how useful that is. I don't know how much you need that. At some point, you're going to need to have the guys up 45, 50, 60, that kind of thing. And we'll have that conversation as it goes through. But it's just parsing through and figuring out the better plays amongst the good plays. And it sounds like you've kind of already figured that out if your player pool is just down to 20 right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, it's down to 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 19, 20. I rounded
you count
up.
by 3. You count by 3s? That's so weird.
Yes. What do you count by? Ones?
I don't know. I would just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I think I'm just, I'm not really sure, but it's not by 3s. Like you just separate them by 3 in your head. That's so weird.
Well, it's because we always used to count cards by 3. Like when you're dealing, 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. Just nice round number.
You dealt cards?
No, my family would play a lot of games.
Oh, okay. All right.
But yeah, this slate is
catch
pretty
a
simple.
like that, right?
Huh?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's pretty simple, and then there's also a lot of stuff that kind of parse through. But yeah, do you want to just dive right in and talk about it?
Yeah, let's just go on in, my friend.
All right, and of course, we're going to keep an eye on Twitter and all that stuff to see if any news breaks. Houston in Charlotte, 234.5 is the total, as a monster number, of course. Houston on the front end of a back-to-back. They are 8-point dogs. There's a chance KPJ plays tonight. He is questionable. There's a chance that Jalen Green plays tonight. He is questionable. Garrison Matthews, your boy, is out, as well as DJ Augustin. On the Charlotte side, three important pieces on their team. Basically, the guys that were crushing when the other guys are out, the other guys are back, and now these guys are out. No Miles Bridges, no PJ Washington, no Cody Martin. And of course, we've seen Charlotte run some really, really tight rotations as well. Good matchup for both sides. These are two offenses or defenses you want to exploit for sure. Amongst your 19 guys in your player pool, I imagine a couple are from this game. Yes or no?
Not many. Which is surprising. It is one of the highest total games on the slate. So on the Houston side, it's really not a ton to love here. I mean, all these guys are priced differently based on how many guys have been in and out of the lineup. Christian Wood stands out as an all right play. He's obviously, I think, a better play over on FanDuel than he is over on DK. He makes a lot more sense there. But over on DK, like Tate is probably priced about where he should be. You're not getting a ton of value on a slate where you're getting guys probably $1,000, $2,000 cheaper than they really should be. So Tate being where he is, especially if Green and Porter end up playing, is kind of off my list. Wood should get a decrease in usage if both those guys play, so he's kind of off my list. Gordon's minutes are going to be too variable. Everyone else's minutes are going to be way too variable, where I don't really have any interest in Houston at all if both Green and Porter end up playing. If one of them ends up playing, then it definitely makes it a little bit more interesting, but not a ton. I still don't know if I'd end up going with any guys on this spot here. And if both of them are out, then I think you definitely can end up playing Tate. His assist rate should go up. He should see a little bit of an increase in usage. Wood should see an increase in usage, and going up against a bad Charlotte front court is a pretty good spot here where I think he becomes more viable on DK and even more viable over on FanDuel. Gordon might get into the mold. Christopher could end up getting into the mold a little bit, but likely you're better off going with values other places because the value is just fantastic all the way across the slate in almost every single other game outside of this. So you're really only looking at mid-range and above in these types of situations in this game, and you're trying to stack it up while using value pieces in the other places. So as of right now, if both guys are in, I'm out. If one guy's in, I'm mostly out. If both guys are out, I could see playing Tate or Wood.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable to assume that one sits tonight with this is the front half of a back-to-back, but who knows? We'll see. We currently have them both projected in, and they do have the depth. Like you say, if one does sit, like a guy like Christopher would get elevated, but elevated enough, probably not. Same deal with Brooks, elevated, but elevated enough, maybe not. I think the more interesting side of this game, like you were right, brother, your assessment as far as Wood, better play on FanDuel as opposed to DK currently. If you take a look at our lineup HQ tool, he's currently 20% projected on FanDuel, where he's 7.9K. Wood is 8.2 on DK, which is fine, but just kind of the way salary construction works, or a lot of construction works, he's going to fall behind as far as ownership. And Tate's fine. We've seen Tate get loose on occasion in certain games. He has the ability, he has the ceiling, but he's hard to trust for me. But in this game, I think Houston pulls their players a little bit earlier than they normally would, front half of back-to-back if it gets ugly. And as far as the Charlotte side, Grant, the rotations are going to be tight, right? That's pretty reasonable to expect. Hayward, Rozier, Ball, Oubre, McDaniels, all of them should grab at least 30 minutes or so. Even Mason Plumlee's kind of interesting at $4K on DK. I think it's a pretty good price. Of course, he's center only, and then there's an opportunity cost to that spot. So I don't know how much I feel like I need that. And as far as a raw points perspective, like LaMelo, this seems like an environment where he can triple dub. What wouldn't shock you if he put up 16, 11, and 12 with 5 stocks. Would that shock you? I don't think so.
No, it wouldn't shock me. No, I mean, obviously, every single night, LaMelo has huge upside. His minutes are always a little bit variable, but this game ends up staying close, which with how the Rockets have been playing recently, I think it's definitely a viable option to play LaMelo. But I really I might fade this game almost entirely outside of using just one-offs and the kind of mid-range guys in Rozier, Oubre, and Hayward. Without Bridges in there, without the lack of depth that they have right now, those 3 guys should end up playing a decent amount of minutes, and they should see an increase in usage without Bridges there. So I don't love any of them, but I think they're all good plays. I mean, this is the 29th and 28th worst defensive teams playing each other, and they're also second and third in terms of pace. This is a dream spot from all kind of viewpoints. But I mean, the real problem is, does this game stay close, and are these guys cheap enough? And as of right now, on a different slate, I'd be just stacking this game up every single which way. On this slate, it really doesn't make the mold with all the other COVID news. So I'm not against playing LaMelo as a spend up. I think there are other guys I prefer, like Harden and Brown, but both those guys are going to be way chalkier than Melo is going to be. And then the mid-range, like Hayward, Oubre, Rozier, these guys seem to fit into a lot of my builds, just having one of them in there.
Yeah, I think LaMelo is really interesting to get you off of Harden, or potentially. I haven't.
I'm not getting off of Harden. I don't care. 100% Harden. I don't. What is his ownership currently?
I was going to say play both. Like Harden, look, is the best raw play. I haven't looked at this.
I mean, who do you prefer, Brown or LaMelo?
Well, the thing is, Brown's price on DK is not like a smash. On FanDuel, it's really, really good. He's like 8K over there, and DK is like 9.5. No Tatum. We're not really sure about Smart just yet. For the record, by the way, currently Harden is projected for 11 points more than the next highest projection.
And that might be a little bit low.
And also it's Damian Lillard, who may not play.
Yeah.
And we have all the salary in the world. Like, we have many different paths. If one path doesn't work or another path doesn't work, another path's going to work as far as cheapies to get yourself some James Harden. So I am with you as well. It's going to be hard to not play James this evening. Jaylen Brown is 9.3 on DK. Ball 9.5. As far as the prices, and like you talked about the Charlotte guys and Gordon Hayward, they're all kind of sort of appropriately priced. Like, Hayward's going to play his normal minutes essentially. Plumlee's interesting because he doesn't need 35 minutes to get there, but we'll talk about it soon enough. Like, he's center only, right? And then there's Nathan Knight. That's Nathan Knight just looks like a much better play. He's essentially locking the minutes. We'll talk about Minnesota soon enough. Minnesota is so desperate for bodies, big bodies. They signed the Moose. The Moose is back. Greg Monroe. I'm not sure if you saw that. Get excited.
How old is he?
I don't know if you're just having fun with me, but I actually tweeted that out earlier today. Did you not catch this tweet?
He's 31. Wow.
So yeah, I tweeted out earlier today because I was curious. I had the same thought. I go, how old is this guy? I feel like he's not that old. And also, what has he been doing the last couple of years? He hasn't played in the NBA, I think, in 1 or 2 years. Just hanging out with his friends, playing ball.
2018 to 2019. So almost 3. So about 3 years.
Is there some other league? Is he playing in the big 3? Was he in the big 3? I don't know.
He probably just took the massive amount of money, I would assume, that he earned. Well, he was drafted top 3?
He was a pretty high draft
7
for Detroit.
He was number 7, yeah.
Or Milwaukee, or he played on both those teams, obviously. But
he was drafted by the Pistons.
Yeah, I think he was blocking Drummond for.
Oh, he was playing over in Munich, in Moscow, the capital city go-go.
Okay, so he's actually in shape then.
Yeah, he looks like he was playing in the G League for part of this year. It looks like
he must love basketball, right? Because he's made a ton of money, I'm sure, in the NBA, and he's still grinding out in Munich and probably not making a ton. I don't know. What are they making? $1 million? Well, not relatively speaking, obviously. What was he making in Munich? You got that? What was this contract?
I have no idea.
$1 million? Yeah. I can't imagine it's anywhere in the NBA, but we got derailed as far as that 7-game slate. No worries, plenty of time. But yeah, like you said, you can sprinkle in Hayward, you can sprinkle in Rozier and Oubre and Plumlee. And then there's, both McDaniels are interesting. We'll talk about the Minnesota one soon enough. And Charlotte, we've seen it before when they'll play basically 7 dudes sometimes, and 7 dudes against Houston could be interesting for sure. But just the way the slate sets up, you're right. It's not like this lock. I like Hayward. If he's like the last guy I land on for my lineup, not blowing it up. Okay, let's go with Gordon Hayward. He should be fine. He's not going to.
By the way, Wikipedia is telling me that they've given me $2.75 worth of knowledge this year.
Did you not donate to Wikipedia? Is that their way of guilting you to give them like $3 via PayPal?
Yeah, and then it says, yes, I'll donate $2.75.
Yeah. Okay. Well, also, you won like over $200,000. It's a write-off, man. You're looking for write-offs?
Yeah. Well, I'm self-employed, so the write-offs are a little bit different. I don't know if I actually use the itemized deduction or if I use the standard deduction this year. I'm not sure if I actually had that many expenses, because when you're filing on Schedule C for the majority of your income, you can deduct everything through that. So the itemized deduction portion of things really doesn't make too much sense.
Is Schedule C when you file quarterly?
Schedule. Yeah, I think a lot of it is doing estimated taxes.
Yeah,
it's self-employment.
Yeah, I know you have a good background in accounting, so I figured you'd be all over that answer. You got anything else in this game as far as anything else, or shall we move on? The sprinkling in, and LaMelo is certainly interesting for tournaments. Probably not getting there in cash if you're playing cash these days. But it's weird that game does not pop, but it really doesn't. But I mean, of course, you can game stack it up and have yourself a good time. Like Wood's got a 55-point ceiling. Like he can get there for sure. If you're playing a couple guys in Houston, play a couple guys in Charlotte. I'm not saying you can't do that in tournaments. I assume you're not saying that either. You're okay with that thought process? With
stacking?
Like play Tate and play Wood, especially if one of Green and KPJ sits, and play like 2 guys on LaMelo and Hayward or something like that.
Yeah, it's not like, again, game stacking. You're pretty much hoping that it stays close and goes to overtime. I don't think it's the best EV situation, but it's definitely not a terrible idea on the slate. Like they could end up hitting. I'm just not doing it.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things where it's not a 50-50 proposition. It can hit 1 time out of 10 and you could be ahead.
Yes.
Yeah. So what do you win when you win, right? All right.
I think the better move of that, though, is probably just playing Tate and Wood and then bringing it back with LaMelo, because I'm under the assumption that like Hayward, Rozier, and Oubre are all kind of popping in optimizers.
So let's see. I ran a bunch of optimals on DK. It's a good question. Let's see. I capped it at 71%. Let's see where we have. We have Gordon Hayward in 12% of lineups, Rozier in 9% of lineups, Kelly Oubre in 6% of lineups. So they're not popping, as far as I can tell.
I mean, they're popping a decent amount.
Yeah, well, 9% that's a pop.
Well, look, I mean, the value plays on this slate are probably showing up in a lot of optimizers.
Of course.
Like so if you look at RG projected value, I've never seen 10 plus guys with over 5 RG projected value, and I've never seen multiple people with over 10. And right now we have like Bogdanovich at 11, Knight at 10, Malik Beasley at 9, James Harden at 7, Reddish at almost 7. And then if Lillard ends up getting ruled out, Little and Powell are both going to pop into the double digits.
Yeah, they're already fine as is.
I might honestly lock both those guys in, just because, like, on the off chance that what's his name doesn't end up playing. Like, they're already great plays, but then they become a necessity if he doesn't end up playing.
Yeah, and it's a 10 o'clock game, and who knows when that news comes down. And again, it's not an injury, it's personal, and I don't know. Who knows what's going on? To my knowledge, it's not out there what he's dealing with. But we shall see. Stay tuned on that. But that's the thing, though, is like when we get there. Like,
and Tate is in health and safety protocols.
Oh, okay. How does that change things? Huh.
I don't know. Things are ridiculous. Life is weird.
Who would be like his direct backup? I'm trying to think who would make sense there.
I mean, they're probably just going to play a little bit smaller. They don't really need size going up against Charlotte. So Tate going out, like, They'll probably play KJ Martin an extra 7 to 8 minutes just to get some size in there. Sengun probably.
Can they play Sengun alongside of Wood? Like to have Wood step down
done
to
it
4
before.
and Sengun play the 5?
Yeah, like they could have just ended up going a little bit bigger. Kenyon Martin has entered health and safety protocols.
Well, so much for that. So much for Martin taking Tate's place. Yeah, we had to know there's gonna be another one following, and oh boy, welcome to the show. So everything we had set up with the Rockets. Yeah. So are we waiting? Are we gonna wait?
Hold on, I'm trying to make a bet. Let's see if I can.
Yeah, no Tate and no Martin.
Well, I mean, I'm guessing this means that like I wouldn't be surprised if they try and bring Green and Porter back early. They'll probably do a little bit
maybe
smaller of a lineup, and there will probably be 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes maybe, where Wood and Sengun are both playing side by side. I don't think they're going to try and play.
Green was just injury management. Like Green's not hurt. It's just he came back from injury and whatever. But maybe they play him tonight and sit him tomorrow, or deal with tomorrow when tomorrow comes. They sign a couple new. They do have bodies for what it's worth. There's like Nawaba and Brooks.
Yeah, they're not really trying to win, so they're just kind of all over the board. They do kind of want to develop their younger players a little bit while also tanking at the same time. Kevin Porter Jr. available but unlikely to play. All right, so that's interesting. Wood now becomes a drastically better play, I think. If Green ends up getting ruled out too, then I have to assume Wood's in a smash spot right now.
But the threat of a blowout is increased for what it's worth. But like if you're playing them, you're playing for the ceiling anyway.
Jalen Green available but unlikely to play. All right. So Amari Brooks now becomes a fairly solid play. Eric Gordon becomes a fairly solid play. Christopher is probably going to play some minutes. I don't know if you really need him on this slate.
I don't think you do. But, yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see what they throw out with the solid lineup. I wouldn't be surprised if they do Brooks, Gordon. What do you think? Wood, Sengun, and probably Gordon, Christopher, Amari, Wood, and Sengun.
Why not start Wood? Yeah, let's start Wood alongside Sengun. Like, why wouldn't they do that? That's
especially going up against Charlotte, where they're kind of undersized right now. Like their 4 is not really going to be great, regardless. Without Washington, without Bridges in there, they're kind of lacking some height. And Plumlee is basically human turnstile on defense at times. Like they're already going to be a little bit struggling towards big men. And if they throw Wood in at the 4 and he actually ends up doing a little bit more distributing the ball, it's an interesting spot here. But
not to cut you off, but Wood and Sengun, I just ran a court IQ. They've played together this season, 187 minutes alongside each other. So that to me is what makes sense. Wood alongside Sengun is in the starting lineup. Then we both kind of speculate stay tuned. our projections.
Pay attention to RG projections. Pay attention to crunch time. They're going to be able to dissect it more with time. But that's just my preliminary thoughts. I'm actually thinking about stacking this game up a little bit now, because I can use Rozier and Oubre, or Rozier and Hayward, or Hayward and Oubre. It's playing those two guys. I mean, LaMelo is fine, but I'd rather just pay up for Brown and pay up for Harden. Like I'm hammering in Harden. So it now makes it more viable of a game stack, bring it back, just because of the amount of minutes these guys will have to play and the amount of usage that's going to be out of there. I mean, I know Tate wasn't a huge guy, but he does distribute. He does steal some rebounds, but just the minutes from Green and Porter normally take up when they're in there. I froze for a second.
All right, Grant.
Neato.
Yeah, you're good to go. Let's move on. Let's talk about Chicago and Atlanta.
No one.
You
can play Cody White if you want. No one else. Everyone else is tournament viable. You can play DeRozan. You can play Levine. You can play Vooch. But realistically, none of these guys really have a place in this slate, at least over on DraftKings.
Really? That's an interesting thought. I think I disagree with that.
All right, go ahead.
Well, Bogdanovich. You don't like? I thought you liked Bogdanovich.
No, Chicago specifically. Atlanta's a whole different story.
Okay, all right. Well, let me at least spit out both opponents before.
Well, I want to save time for the end because we're going to get some ridiculous COVID news.
Well, we're going to do our best, man. And then we have crunch time. Whatever we don't get to, we're going to try to cover everything we can. But whatever we don't, crunch time. They have her back as well. 40 minutes or so. You guys are premium members. Check it out. Rotogrinders.com. 211 is the total, not particularly high. Atlanta is a 4-point dog here. And yeah, the Chicago side you're talking about, like Vuk is a playable raw points guy, but I don't love it. DeRozan, I love it. Levine came back. It looked pretty good yesterday. They're on the back end of a back-to-back for what it's worth, but they are a well-rested team. They didn't play for 5, 6, 7 days or something like that. Kobe White will jump in the starting lineup, but his price has adjusted. I'm looking at FanDuel. We're seeing Vuk as our highest projected player at 19%. That seems too high for me. I don't think I'm in on that. Sure, you can sprinkle it in, but I don't like that number. DK specific, Vuk is the highest guy is 10%. Kobe White at 4-1 is interesting. He could put actually, 20 real points in that bucket. That's something he can do. But I agree with you. Like I don't love it as far as the Chicago side. It's also worth noting, Grant, right? They're playing against a bunch of like G Leaguers on the other side trying to stop them. Skylar Mays is like a fringe player. Cat Barber, awesome name, but probably shouldn't be in the NBA right now. Who knows how much run he gets? Lance Stevenson, 31-year-old.
It's a 4.5 point spread. It's being played in Atlanta, which makes me think that it's going to be closer. They only have a 107.7
play.
Huh?
It makes you think Trae Young's going to play.
Yeah, I'm really, really hoping he doesn't. Or else
I know you are, but
a lot of money.
I understand, but like, doesn't that line suggest that there are some reinforcements coming, and it's not Cat Barber?
I mean, it does to a certain extent, but the fact that it's being played in Atlanta, like Bogdanovich and Reddish, both of these guys can actually do something. Capela's a solid overall big man. Like Gorgie Dang is not great, but he's not horrible. Stevenson is a pest. Like, I get that, yes, that line kind of does suggest that there's more likelihood that Trae Young ends up playing. I mean, they are just kind of guessing as much as we are. They don't know that if you got a negative test again. But I mean, chances are if you got one yesterday, there's a decent chance that you can end up getting one today. I don't know. Like, the main thing is conditioning. How much does Atlanta want to actually push him out there immediately? And if so, like, is he only going to play 25 minutes? Who knows?
So, by the way, Trae Young 5 hours ago, he tweeted out, maybe COVID heard me. And was that when they changed the COVID restrictions? I'm not really sure. And then an hour ago, Trae Young tweeted out a picture of an hourglass, nothing else. What, decipher that? What does that mean?
It means he's waiting to see his results.
Yeah, I guess so. Or maybe it's only a matter of time till I come back to the court, but something along the line, like he's teasing a comeback, obviously. Eventually he's going to come back. Is it tonight? We don't know. Stay tuned. Let's pretend like he's not. Who are your favorite players on the Atlanta side?
Bogdanovich and Reddish. Like, both these guys are absolute smashes. I know Bogdanovich has not played great recently. Just terrible. But the shot volume has been there at least in the last two. 12 shot attempts in the last one, 17 in the one before that. Same thing with Reddish. Like, he was shooting a ton. And, he's been shooting a ton in every single game where all these guys have been out. But the problem is that, like, one turned into a blowout and the other one he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. I know, because I bet his overs and it crushed my heart and soul and my pocketbook. Do people still call it a pocketbook?
I mean, I think women have pocket. Well, is that more of a? I don't. Either way, if that works for you, you got a Merce.
I mean, I look good with a Merce.
I'm sure you can make it work, man. I feel like pocketbook's like something my mom would say. I feel like that's a word she would use.
I'm going to look up pocketbook.
Yeah.
Also is more applicable to me since I have massive amount of things in my wallet at all times.
Bogdanovich has come back from injury and he's been
a woman's handbag.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, doesn't mean anybody can help. Not going to get.
I trust that. Webster, sir.
Do you pay them $3 a year to keep their site running?
No, they do not give me $3 a year of knowledge.
Yeah. So Bogdanovich, I trust he's not going to be this terrible going forward. Maybe he is still dealing with an injury. Maybe he's still like kind of powering through.
Maybe he just shot bad.
Yeah. I'm saying I don't know how to quantify it. And also we saw he had minutes limits. They're kind of like ramping him up slowly. He finally got 36 minutes last time out. And you'd assume, and he also is a guy like we saw this guy last year absolutely smash when they gave him like point duties, and he might have point duties tonight. Again, contingent on.
Well, that's also the thing with that DeLon Wright. They're playing 38 minutes. While he may not be shooting the ball a ton, he was handling pretty much the entirety of point duties. Skylar Mays, like, do we really think he's going to run the point that much?
No.
I mean, DeLon Wright's a great facilitator. He can do a lot of things, but if he's not the guy running point, and Bogdanovich is, then Bogdanovich is going to be a lot more trigger happy, get a lot more assists. And with Cam Reddish on there being the other option, like, he's going to be the guy that he immediately dishes it out to, or Capella. So the dime numbers and potential assists should be a lot higher in this game.
I didn't even run down all the players that were out, but like the key ones for Chicago: no Lonzo, No Caruso. Tony Bradley and McKinney aren't playing either for what it's worth. Atlanta currently, Trae Young is out. John Collins is out. Kevin Huerter, Gallinari, Luke Williams, DeLon Wright, Okongwu, TLC, like 7 to 8 guys that get minutes.
DeAndre Ayton's in health and safety protocols.
Yeah, geez.
JaVale,
JaVale. How much is JaVale tonight? Is JaVale
Hold
cheap?
up, sorry, I just have to do something.
Oh, you're gonna go ahead and try to bet JaVale or bet. Oh, you got to smash something. Let us know what you're doing when you're done. But I presume.
All right, I got a G on JaVale over on points 8.5. That's a lock and load.
That's a free $1,000, man.
Yeah. I also got half G.
Oh, your camera just got all funky. I don't know. It happened pre-show as well too. I'm not sure what's going on.
Devin, am I able to just turn my camera off and on? All right, that makes it easy.
JaVale McGee, by the way, his asking price. It is 4.5 on DK and 4.5 on FanDuel and $15 on Yahoo. So yeah, like I presume he's going to jump right in that starting lineup, and I presume he'll play, 27 to 30 minutes or something like that. And we know his backups aren't around either. There's no Frank the Tank. There's no who else will be around that could potentially steal minutes from. That's basically
was Paul a bad idea at betting over 14.5 points? I feel like that's a fine line.
That's fine.
I mean, I assume Ayton's really not. I just panic bet there.
JaVale is the one that probably has the best value to it, I would imagine.
I literally just need to have DK open pretty much every single time I'm on a show.
Save yourself a click, man. Like that one click, that 5 seconds or whatever it may be, that's the difference of getting that bet and not getting that bet. It's probably closed now, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I should have bet Booker, but Booker's even all right. Was an all right bet beforehand. Normally, I just have so much things going on right now. Son of a biscuit.
Hey, some of the other player props you like tonight, and I've even throwing them in our Discord channel. What up, YouTube? If you're looking to chat with us on YouTube, chat with us over in the Rotogrinders Discord channel. It is free. It doesn't cost you anything. Rotogrinders.com/Discord. Go to the live stream chat channel. And Grant is throwing in a lot of his player props that he's bet throughout the day that may or may not be stale. Hopefully they're still good.
And I'm trying to make sure that I throw ones in that are not stale at this moment.
Yeah. So the Atlanta side, assuming Young doesn't play, Bogdanovich and Reddish are the two key plays, right? And like, if you want to throw a dart at Skylar Mays, who he's kind of what I was referring to before. We haven't projected, he's 3.8K. We haven't projected for 24 fantasy points. Some slates in another alternate universe, when COVID isn't a thing and whatever, that's very usable. On this slate though, Grant, is 24 points for 3.8K. No. It's okay. It's not going to
24 points you would not be happy with. Like,
yeah, I mean,
30, you need 32 realistically, which he is. It is possible that he gets 32 or that some of these other guys bust. The problem is, like, it's kind of like, think of it this way, flipping a coin, because we're using median outcomes. So if we're looking at median outcomes, we look at the top overall guys. Like, in order for Skylar to be relevant, he'd either have to get over 32 points, which is probably a 15 to 20% outcome for him. So if you're looking at Bogdanovich, Knight, Beasley, Reddish, Little, Clarkson, McDaniels, Powell, Bain, Bledsoe, Mann, Kennard, depending on which site you're at, like, you're essentially flipping a coin whether they get under their projection and it has to be under by a decent amount. So what are the odds that, I don't know, 5 out of the 7 of them end up heads if you're flipping the coin 7 times? It's really not great. And it has to be drastic under. And on top of that, Mays has to end up hitting. So for him to be the right play, he would essentially have to get 32, and those other guys would have to hit under their median outcomes, and preferably under the median outcomes by a decent amount. So the fact that Mays is still getting some ownership, you're essentially just hoping that there's an extreme amount of variance tonight, which the likelihood when you have this many high projected guys at a cheap price tag is just incredibly unlikely, especially considering how many different scenarios there are, like Minnesota, like Utah, to much smaller extent, Memphis, to now a bigger extent because of McGee, Phoenix, to another extent based on if Lillard plays or not, and then LAC, that's the Clippers. I just don't know why I read it like that. In all those scenarios, if one guy does poorly, that likely means there's a big boost to another guy. So instead of just hoping that both Bogdanovich and Reddish have a rough night or that game goes to overtime, I'm going to err more on the side of going with other games where one of Kennard or Mann or Boston or Bledsoe are going to go off for a big game, or over in Utah, one of Clarkson or Ingles or Conley or Bogdanovich are going to go off for a big game. Whereas in Atlanta, the likelihood of Mays going off for a big game is unlikely considering the other pieces that are still there.
Yeah, like if he puts up like 29, his 29 could be useful if it helps you pay up for LaMelo, who crushes, and Harden, who crushes. And like it becomes like a lineup construction thing. But the other part of that is, like you're saying, there's some other pieces that are similar price point, 3-ish, 4-ish that could put up 35 or so. And we'll talk about those now in a second, at least some of them. Boston, Minnesota, 214 is the total. Minnesota is a 6-point dog here versus Boston. Boston does, they're without Marcus Smart.
Well, Bucks are still waiting on results from a few players. We'll update soon.
Who could those players be?
Yeah,
of course. Boston, Horford is not on the injury report, so we're assuming he's in. Of course, Tatum is out. Dennis Schroeder is out. Richardson's out. Grant Williams is available. Marcus Smart is questionable. This is why Jaylen Brown is popping. Of course, Minnesota is one of the most depleted right now. Pat Bev is a conditioning issue. He may play, may not play. Same deal with Josh Okogie. We know Cat is out. We know Cat's big man backup Naz Reid is out. We know Jared Vanderbilt, another big, is out. We know Tareem Prince is not available. D'Angelo Russell, one of their chuckers, is not available. Anthony Edwards.
All their chuckers are not available.
All their chuckers are not available. Malik Beasley to the rescue. And that's why Nathan Knight, we're expecting him to draw the start and play 25, 30 minutes, whatever it is. There's not a lot of depth in this team. Chris Silva behind him. And he's essentially still minimum. He's 3.3K on DK. He's popping as one of our players. Jaden McDaniels, another guy, probably plays a pile of minutes. Stay tuned as far as guys like Beverly and Okogie. It could change things for sure. And Malik Beasley should draw the start. He's 6.2K, but he's still playable at 6.2K. Let's talk about Boston first. Brown on FanDuel is awesome. On DK, he's good. Talk about the Celtics.
Yeah, I got real lucky before Tatum was originally ruled out or fully ruled out. I got Brown at over 23.5 points and over like 29 or 30 points, rebounds, and assists. So I'm happy. But yeah, so as of right now in this game over on the Boston side, Brown is immediately a very, very good play over on FanDuel. And he's still one of my favorite, probably my second favorite spend up on the slate over on DK at 9.3K without Tatum in there. I mean, his minutes limit is entirely gone, going up against a bad Minnesota team where they're only a 6-point favorite. So the chance of it staying close, considering they're playing over in Minnesota, is pretty solid. Smart, if he ends up playing, I hate playing a chalky Marcus Smart, but he shouldn't be too chalky in this slate. He's a guy that I think is definitely very viable, but he's in that 6K range where there's a lot of viable guys. So he's more of a guy that I'm throwing in if I'm playing multiple players in over on the Minnesota side of things. Pritchard should end up playing close to 30 minutes at 4.3K. He's a viable option in a game stack, but likely a guy that I'm going to end up staying away from. Grant Williams at 3K. There are so many cheap guys. I'm not going to bother with him. Robert Williams and Horford are both fine. Horford may end up seeing an uptick in usage without Tatum in there, but still not a guy that I really want to use. And Robert Williams, his downside and upside is pretty drastic. I mean, not going up against anyone where he's probably going to get into foul trouble over on the other side is definitely a help. Nathan Knight is not anything to write home about, but still, I think that Robert Williams is not a guy that I'm going to end up going with on the slate. So it's pretty much just Brown and Smart for me are the two main guys I want to end up going with.
Is Nathan Knight, is he good chalk? Is he bad chalk? Power forward only on FanDuel. We're projecting 26 minutes and 31 fantasy points. He's been a good fantasy point minute player throughout his career when we've seen him. And also on DK, Knight's price is 3.3, essentially the floor. He's going to be popular. Is that something you want to gravitate to? The situation, of course, calls for it. Otherwise, most people
I'm probably locking
it
it, and I'm not happy about it, but I'm doing it.
That's kind of where I'm at too. But yeah.
I mean, he's projected for 26 minutes. Even if he ends up with, he could end up with 30, he could end up with 20. Regardless, all the way along the spectrum, he's a guy that I want to end up playing, and he just makes things work. I have to look down at my phone every single time something happens. Every
Did
single
you get an update
notification I have.
Did you get anything interesting as far as
Beal,
last thing I saw
Beal
was
tomorrow news. Beal might play. But Beasley is Beasley's just gonna chuck every single time. Like, he loves to shoot, and he's going to shoot a lot. Like 6.2K, he's the reason why a lot of those 6K guys aren't really valuable. Him along with Powell. Like, Beasley, I don't see many ways. Even if he shoots 25% from the floor, he still might end up getting there. He's going to play.
But my argument against Beasley is he's really, really scoring reliant. And like you said, he shot 25 times last game.
Yes. Well,
like
you don't just immediately go into like, I don't like playing guys that are really, really scoring reliant. It's all about volume and price.
Yeah.
Who's one of the top price guys that is very scoring reliant? I mean, the guy I immediately went to was Wiggins like
Lillard?
5 years ago.
Lillard.
Who?
Lillard.
Yeah. If Lillard's priced at 6K, does it really matter?
Well, I mean, yeah, he's more reliable to shoot the ball when he's on the court for like 40 minutes sometimes, of course.
Last 4 outings, do you know how many shot attempts he's averaged from behind the arc?
Who are you asking about, Beasley?
Yeah.
Like 13 or 14? He just keeps chucking.
Yeah, that's exactly. It's somewhere between 13 and 14.
Yeah.
Like, he is just chucking the ball. Trae Young, son of a biscuit.
He's in. Sorry.
Oh,
yeah. Can you bet under now, or is it too late to bet unders in those guys?
They took it down later on in the day. I mean, I still think there's a chance that Bogdanovich ends up getting there. I still think there's a chance that a lot of guys end up getting there.
We got to pick up the pace a little bit here. I do want to,
like I said a while ago.
Well, yeah, but we're getting derailed a little bit. Did you like Young at all, or no? He's 10-5 on DK, which is
honestly
no discount
not a
there
terrible spend up. He's gonna chuck.
Like, he should.
He's not bad. Like, as long as we don't hear about a minutes restriction, which I don't think will end up happening, or I think there's a decent chance that doesn't end up happening. You just have to kind of wait and see on that news. But as of right now, Bogdanovich and Reddish are now definitely a big downgrade. They're still viable, I think, just because they should end up playing a lot of minutes. My guess would be that Mays just kind of slowly gets out of the rotation because they don't want to play Mays. They want to play Stevenson. So with all the wings gone, Reddish and Bogdanovich should play mid to high 30s in minutes. That game should end up staying closer. And I'm not fully out of money. Like, let's be honest. I think Bogdanovich can hit 20, and I think that Reddish can hit 20. Like, I think either of them could end up with 30. It's just drastically worse odds now. So
Young should be able to get Bojan some open shots.
Yeah.
So get Minnesota, your favorite place in Minnesota, like prioritize Knight, Beasley, Jaden McDaniels, Pat Bev. We don't know if he's playing or not. I think it's the first two, and then maybe the first three. Jaden McDaniels, pretty solid play as well. He should play 35 plus minutes. Yeah. Well, is that your top three as far as the Minnesota side?
Yeah, it's Beasley, then Knight, then McDaniels. Then Pat Bev, all right, if he plays.
Let's move on. Utah, San Antonio, 230.5 is a total monster number there. Utah, 5.5 point favorite here. 2 stars, but one on each side. Mitchell is out for Utah, the only player out for Utah. DeJounte Murray out for San Antonio, the only player out for San Antonio. It's like we have full rosters, just the studs are out on both sides. What are you doing?
Clarkson is a good play. Like, he should get a few more minutes. He should get a little bit more usage, not having Mitchell on the floor for part of the time that he's out there. I think Bogdanovich is a decent play. I don't mind the Bogdanovich stack. He should be chucking. Yeah, he should be chucking a lot. I bet the over on his points. And I think the over on his 3-pointers. So both those guys are solid. Like, Ingles isn't a bad play. He could end up running the point a little bit and distributing a whole lot more, and he should end up shooting a decent amount more. Should play close to 30 minutes. Gobert, probably not someone I want to mess with. So Clarkson's the main guy, but any one of those other pieces are viable, just as they are every single time Mitchell's out there.
Yeah, I like that price there for Ingles on DK. Again, the same deal. I don't know how much I need it, but I think it's a pretty usable price. He probably draws to start. White and Johnson are pretty interesting as far as the San Antonio side. I don't know how much we need either one of them, but they're both sort of glue guys for me. White's a guy that could put up a 45. It wouldn't surprise me. We probably see Walker jump in the starting lineup. He's another guy that's kind of scoring reliant. His floor is rough, but he can put 20 to 25 real points in the bucket. Anything else of note in this game as far as the Utah side? Yeah, I mean,
It's a tough
they're gonna
matchup, but they're going to need him for a little bit more usage. They're going to need him for a little bit more minutes, I assume.
he should be around the basket. Him and Gobert, both just going to chill in the paint basically the entire game, right? I presume.
Yeah.
Decent chance to grab 14, 13, something like that as far as boards and get some putbacks, possibly get yourself a double-double. Anything else we need to feature in that game, or shall we move on?
Nah, let's move on.
Memphis and Phoenix, 220.5 is the total here. Memphis is a 8-point dog. We just learned minutes ago that not only are Jay Crowder out for Phoenix and Elf Payton out for Phoenix, but they lost Ayton, which means JaVale McGee almost definitely, but presume he's going to jump in that starting lineup and become a really, really solid value play. We know McGee, when they unleash him, when he gets his minutes, he's a really, really solid fantasy point minute player. He's not priced for that particular scenario. So I haven't worked anything out yet, but he feels like a guy that is probably landing in optimal lineups. Is that your thought process as far as Phoenix?
Yeah, he'll probably be. He's going to be the pivot off of the night, would be my guess. McGee should be projecting for what, 30 points?
Well, our projection team, I believe they're on it, and I'm refreshing right now, and I'm taking a look. But let's see, what do we have here as far as McGee?
Yeah, it's projected 44% ownership right now.
Okay, so the ownership updated, but not the fantasy points per minute, because it still says 15 minutes and like 19 fantasy points, but
yeah,
that obviously is going to change. Yeah, if we're looking at like 28 minutes or something like that, which seems like a pretty reasonable number, like at least 30 fantasy points at 4.5K. And you said in lieu of, I don't know why you can't play both, and maybe you don't have to, obviously, but you could play both Knight and McGee and just have a blast as far as spending up on players. We got some salary for James Harden. And again, we're talking about potentially playing LaMelo and Harden together, or Brown and Harden together, or maybe Trae Young and Harden, or two.
Let's talk about Bane.
I mean, he's there.
He's a good play.
Okay. A good play. He's a fine play, right? Well, Brooks is out, which is a big deal because
Brooks is out, which is a big deal.
And Melton's out too. So
Bane's minutes should, if this game stays close, into the mid 30s. When he plays mid 30s minutes, he generally crushes. I know that he is scoring dependent, but he can absolutely, like looking at his last 6 games, he's been 23 plus points in 4 of those. I already bet the over on his points and his alt points. I absolutely love Bane today.
Yeah, but he can hit the over on his points and still not be a good DFS play. Is kind of my counter argument to that.
It's fine, but
like he's 6'5" on
other people
on
cannot
FanDuel.
hit their points total. Like that's also an argument for every single person on the slate. There's arguments against people. That's why there's not
better
an
play on
automatic
DK.
play.
I'll give you that. Better play on DK. He's 5'8" there, 3-point bonus, and he's like 6'5" on FanDuel. I think Morant.
Plus, he can get that double bonus, as you always say.
Morant's interesting for tournaments as well. He does shine in the absence of Brooks stealing all of his shots. Melton also missing too, for what it's worth. Ayton, turned himself to a pretty solid defender, not going to be there in the paint. And we know Morant, I believe, is the second most in the league as far as drives. SGA, him and they're 1 and 2 last I checked as far as drives to the bucket. So rim protection matters for Ja. All right. Anything else that we need to stress of importance as far as the Phoenix team? It's going to be JaVale. Of course, you can play Paul if you want. You kind of work him in through tournaments. You run a 150 or something like that. Same deal with
Booker's
Booker.
a decent play over on, I want to FanDuel and Yahoo.
It's Booker 7.4 on FanDuel. That is a pretty good price. I do agree with that. I don't remember what he is on Yahoo, and I don't happen to have it open
31
in front of me. All right. Let's knock out Dallas versus Portland. 212.5 is the total.
Porzingis is fine. Brunson is fine. DFS is probably too expensive now, but that's kind of it. Let's go to Portland.
Yeah, Luka is out. Hardaway Jr. is out. If people aren't aware, there's other fringe players too we can run down. DFS not currently on the injury report. He was ill. The Portland side, I mean, they are ravaged. Nurkic, we know, is out. Covington, of course, is out. DSJ is out. McLemore, Lillard's the big one. But either way, like, they don't have a lot of bigs. Like Larry Nance could be asked to play 35 minutes here. He's their de facto 5. He's their de facto big. There's Greg Brown, who's a person that will back him up. But Nance, I feel like our projections were too low on him, at least earlier today. I like him. I'm not certain how much I'm going to get of him, but I feel pretty good about Nance having a nice game here against Dallas. And then like Little and Powell, and of course, if Lillard doesn't play, Anthony Simons is really going to get loose. Talk about Portland.
I mean, Little and Powell are good plays regardless. Obviously, should end up playing a lot of minutes. The usage should be there. It's not a terrible matchup going against Dallas. Spread's pretty tight, so both those guys are in play regardless. If Lillard ends up playing, you can play Lillard. If Lillard ends up sitting, play Simons. Nance probably doesn't make the mold for me, at least over on DK, where he's 5.2K. I think that price tag is probably about where it should be. I think you can play him over on Yahoo. But yeah, it's pretty much Little, Powell, and then it's either Simons or Lillard based on if Lillard plays or not. But Little and Powell, I think, are two guys that you should definitely go a little bit overweight on, considering if Lillard is ruled out, people might not have, depending on when it happens, like it's an hour after the Memphis game, they might not have the ability to really change things around too much.
We have Nance projected for 34 minutes, by the way. Like I know he hasn't been as great of a DFS player this year as he's been in seasons past, 0.84, 0.88, but we've seen this guy be better. And especially if he gets it going from a stock perspective, I don't know. I think if it's 34 minutes, I'll take my chances. But there's so much good stuff on this slate. And as far as Dallas, like, you think they're still meeting that bone for Porzingis at 8,600? Can you mention he's just like sort of fine? Like, you're not isolating him, but if you want to play him, it's okay, basically.
Yeah, I mean, my problem is he's projecting for 24% ownership, so I'm probably out on him based on that. If he was sub 10, then I'd be like, yeah, no, you can absolutely play him at 10-6, but I'd rather eat my ownership in other places.
Well, I think that's a good segue to the hammer that is Brooklyn. Brooklyn and the Clippers, 213 is the total. Brooklyn is a 4-point favorite. Of course, Brooklyn's going to be without Durant and Irving and LMA, a couple of their fringe guys as well. But this should be the James Harden show against the Clippers, who are without Paul George. Batum also out. Reggie Jackson also out. Marcus Morris, I don't know. Maybe he plays, maybe he doesn't. He's got a conditioning issue going on there. That Clipper team, it's rough when they lose their first two studs. All right. So you're eating the James Harden ownership. Spoiler alert, right?
Yep.
Whatever it is, 50%, 60%. It's not high enough to scare. We're looking at 47 as of right now. This stuff will change, but it's going to be a big number. 47%, 55%, 45%. It's going to be high, and justifiably so. Do you like anybody else on Brooklyn? Because I don't think I do.
No.
Yeah,
no,
Mills at 7-4.
Yeah.
I can't talk to that. I just can't do it.
I think he's, if I remember correctly, he's far too cheap over on Yahoo, but everyone kind of is. Yeah, he's $19 over on Yahoo. Bruce Brown, like on a different slate, he'd be fine at 4.7. This slate, no. Claxton, no. Just both McGee and Knight are cheaper and will outscore him.
Did not really prompt questions over there in the Rotogrinders Discord channel. You guys can join rotogrinders.com/Discord, the live stream chat channel. But Devin is compiling questions. He's going to join the show momentarily. Last 5 minutes or so, we'll do our best to knock out as many as possible. Again, it does not cost you anything to join that channel. It is a free channel. You do not have to be a premium member. The live stream chat channel, and Grant has been dropping a lot of his bets throughout the show. He's probably going to drop a couple more for the people. Sure, why not? The Clippers, there's some usage to go around as far as the Clippers side, right? Have the prices fully adjusted in a new situation with Paul George being out? Probably not. Bledsoe looks pretty reasonable, even at 6K.
Bledsoe's too cheap.
I'm okay with Terrence Mann at 5.8K on DK. Zubac's a center, so it makes it really, really tough. The center is just, as always, it's pretty loaded. There's some good values already. Talking about what your thoughts are as far as the Clippers, or LAC, as you'd like to call them.
Trae Young's the only player to clear health and safety protocols. Honestly, like Bogdanovich and Reddish aren't bad plays. I think we got a question about that in chat. They're still not bad plays. Are they lock and loads? No, but they're still both very much
playable.
In play. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bledsoe's my favorite play. If Morris ends up playing, he's actually a pretty solid overall play. If Morris ends up sitting, then Zubac is more viable, Kennard is more viable, and Mann is more viable. But as of right now, if Morris ends up playing, then it's mostly just Bledsoe and Morris for me. If Morris ends up sitting, then Bledsoe still, but then Zubac, Kennard, and Mann are all very much in play.
Anything else you want to say about this game, or shall we bring Devin on?
Let's bring my friend Devin on.
All right. I speak slowly to give Devin a couple minutes. There are a couple seconds.
I'm ready this time.
Seconds to the transition. Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
All right,
I accidentally brought myself in right before the Clippers breakdown, so I was ready. I was here. We got some questions though, and only about 4 minutes here until the end of the show, so maybe we just go ahead and jump right in.
Go for it. Fire away.
I'm trying to figure something out. So Bogdanovic's points total has only dropped 2, and there's heavy juice on the over. Reddish's points total has only dropped 2.
Huh. All right. Are you considering like trying to buy yourself a? Well, there's no middle, hedging. Obviously. Yeah, there's no.
The real thing that pissed me off is I bet Reddish over 2.5 assists. That's what gets killed.
That's probably not going to happen.
Is there something to be gleaned from that as far as what bettors are assuming? What Vegas is assuming? Trae Young doesn't impact as much? What Vegas is assuming
is that they're still going to play 39-plus minutes, and it's more the peripheral stats that are going to get hurt by Trae Young being in there. While he will... oh, nice. I got my refund from Amazon. Hooray.
Yeah, they're going to still be on the court. They have to be. Their usage goes down.
Yeah, and it goes down, but like they're still going to have a lot of usage.
All right, let's jump right into some questions here. FanDuel strategy for tournaments. Who's your low-owned salary relief play?
I don't know.
Favorite low-owned salary relief play on FanDuel. Interesting.
For tournaments.
I don't know what you qualify as low-owned. Like Nasir Little.
What do we have him as far as ownership right now?
20%. Like, there's not
maybe something lower than that.
Josh Christopher, I guess.
No,
it's fine. I'm playing the chalk. Joe Ingles, maybe.
I suppose that's a good point. Maybe you can mention the fact that chalk in NBA gets to be chalkier because it is actually good spots, especially for value players. They're putting in thrust into starter positions.
Good use of the word.
I'll say Anthony Simons. Anthony Simons is currently 5%, and there's a chance things can get really good for him if Lillard's out, and it's a chance that happens after all the other games have started to play, or at least most of the games have started to play. So, and I think he's okay either way. Simons, that's my guy. What do you think, Grant?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, Flores, Mark, DK tournaments. Are we locking Porzingis?
No.
Is that something that recent news has changed, or that's just in general?
Just
all right. And we touched on
you definitely play him, just don't lock him.
Sure. We touched on your Karaba's experience in chat, that it was delicious.
We'll talk about that more on the next show.
Right, yeah, we've got plenty of time tonight. DK tournaments, thoughts on Peyton Pritchard, who is available?
He's not even close to the top play in his price range. There's probably 7 guys above him, but if you want to play him, go ahead.
He gets like a 25% projection boost if Smart does not play. So if Smart does not play, elevate
That's
Pritchard.
a big point, yeah.
So be on top of that.
All right, Yappy wants to know for DK in general. We actually talked about this a little bit. Portland has only one center in Nance, and he doesn't project well. You guys kind of mentioned that he could outperform those projections, right?
I like Nance. Yeah, he can get handsy, but assuming he stays out of foul trouble, barring goofiness, he's going to play 32 to 36 minutes. And he's not a terrible fantasy point minute player. He's been a little bit off this year, but yeah, I get why he's kind of lost in the shuffle on this slate, but. Yeah, I think I like Larry Nance more than our projections do, and I'm probably gonna. I plan on playing him at least one lineup.
All right, here's a little bit of an off the wall question for DK tournaments. Does Landale keep getting enough run to keep scoring? Last 2 games, scored 30 points for just about the same minutes projection he currently has.
Who?
Grant
Landale, Spurs. It's like a bench center.
Yeah.
I don't really like you have Knight and you have McGee.
He's got a name straight out of Anchorman, by the way, Jock Landale. Like, how is Jock Landale not a character from he's not on one of the news networks or one of the news teams?
Sportscaster.
He should be bringing the weather.
Yeah.
Jock Landale?
Like, the main thing is he's averaging more than a real life point per minute. That's not going to continue.
He's been super efficient as well. Like, it doesn't 75%
seem like on the field and stuff.
Who are they playing? They were playing Detroit last night, and they were playing the Lakers before. Like, Lakers were a fantastic match. I don't think Howard played that game. So it's just a lock and load versus a backup center with no height in there. And then going up against Detroit, I think Landale had a lot of his work that was done against both Garza and the backup fouled out that game. So.
All right, let's wrap up a couple of quick ones here. Favorite game stack for large field tournaments, FanDuel.
I mean, probably Minnesota with Brown, McDaniels, Beasley, and Knight.
Surprised.
Especially if Smart doesn't play.
I thought Houston, Charlotte would have been the answer to that one.
I think that's in the conversation too.
I mean, the main thing is if I'm using more than one, if I'm doing a 2-2 game stack, it's probably Houston, Charlotte. If I'm doing a 1-3 game stack, it's Boston, Minnesota, or even potentially Memphis. Now it's Boston, Minnesota.
All right, last one. DK tournaments. Thoughts on Conchar with Dylan still out?
He's another one of those cheapies that like he might get you 25 points, but how useful is 25 points?
Yes. He's fine.
He's fine.
Like, he's 3-1 if you can't get up to the guys that are like 3-6, 3-7, 3-8. Go ahead. But like if you're really fishing for that $600, then do it. But you shouldn't.
All right. That's about all the time we have. Dean, you want to go ahead and take us home?
Yeah, I do appreciate y'all watch us on the old YouTube. We'd appreciate it if you guys hit the like button as well. Hit that like button. Do subscribe to Rotogrinders, the channel, the notifications, all that good stuff. There will be a showdown show. Showdown NFL show at 7:30. Is that correct?
7:30 Eastern.
Yeah, if you guys are playing the awful NFL game tonight, the Saints and the Dolphins, myself and Grant and Devin will be back later on. We're gonna do a live watch. Hang out with us. You guys can ask all sorts of fun questions for 3 hours or so. By the way, I believe we're gonna have Shrek on with us. Shrek, the newest millionaire in all of DFS. He's gonna make
and James McCool.
And James McCool. How about that? Breaking news. We're not exactly sure when they will come in on, but that'll be good times for sure. And you guys are premium members. What's next? It's crunch time. They're gonna break down whatever we didn't break down, whatever news breaks from now till tip off. Devin's got to go set that up. For Devin, for Grant, for basketball, I was Dean. We're out of here. Holler.